let's do it. I don't know why
yeah,
you needed to know
we
that,
got some joiners. Great. So there's obviously been a lot of talks today that have included Hollywood, which is really fantastic to get such a diverse group of people who work in the entertainment industry intersecting with video games. But you come from, quite a different place than some of the executives that have been on stage today. And as I mentioned when you walked up here, people clearly recognize your face from being, on the cover of the game box, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's weird.
But you do, so much more than that. And,
sure.
and that's what we're really here today to talk about, and to talk about, what the work you're doing is and how it intersects with, what people's traditional perceptions are of Hollywood and what Hollywood is in relationship to
the games industry.
Exactly.
For sure. Well, the first thing you need to know is that I sit on a weird fence between like a few different yards. Like I am a gamer fangirl first, and then I'm an artist, but I'm also sort of like kind of insider, so I've seen behind the curtain of Oz a little bit. But like everything I'm about to say, I have no idea what it's gonna be, number one. But number two, like I get to say vehemently with no worry of stakes because I make a living in Hollywood, I get to like stamp around and say all these wild opinions with venom because all I care about is growth in an industry that I love very much. So,
well, we can give an applause for passion.
Everyone loves passion.
And I think that's what really unites everybody in this room in the games industry.
We're all trying to do something that we know. This is a very new medium. We know we're on the forefront of something. We get to be the ones that are the arbiters of change within it, and we should be taking that very seriously. I do.
Good. I think they do too. They're just
they're here.
They're maybe just not as venomous about it, which is, maybe you should get some more venom.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. So we were going to talk a little bit about what you and your writing partner have been working on. I know that you can't give some specifics.
Yeah, I mean,
everyone in this room knows about NDAs.
The NDA, I'm like fearing for my life constantly. Well, you know you're doing something right if you like can only speak vaguely about everything in your life and your work.
Yeah.
But Hollywood 2.0 was talking about it a little bit. There is a generation of creators and future showrunners that are thinking in a transmedia way. This is an overused term, and the reason I would say it's overused is because people are throwing it around Hollywood. I say Hollywood with quotes because, like, LA is a place, Hollywood is a concept, it's an industry, etc. So there are a lot of people who don't actually use the mediums that they're talking about. They're not use cases, like they're not gamers, they don't use VR, like they don't actually engage in the mediums that they're talking about, and I have a problem with that. Not to shit talk, but anyway, so like,
hey, let's just put it all out there right now to everybody who's watching on stream.
Let's just put it out there. Can we finally say the things that nobody's saying? Like, stop using words that you're not actually engaging as like a transmedia user, so stop pretending like you know how to create content for something that you don't even use.
I'm gonna admit, you say transmedia, but I don't use transmedia. Can you explain?
Well, you're not
for
part
people
of the
out there
problem,
who are like, what does she mean,
okay,
transmedia?
so basically it just means content that could be transferred into another medium. So, okay, so if I'm going in like right now,
like Star Wars.
Like Star Wars,
yeah.
That's now a transmedia property, right? So like you take, example, you take an IP and now you make it a game. Now you make it a graphic novel. Now you make it a VR experience. Transmedia, right? It's all of it. This term will change yet again. It's sort of like a newish term. Everybody comes up with a new term and then, yeah, whatever. So that's where it is right now. But my writing partner and I are users of various mediums. We are hardcore gamers. I am a hardcore story-first, deep narrative gamer. I love multiplayer. I think I understand. I love that people love it, but like, call me when this shit has a story, when it has characters and something that I can identify with in a universal way. And so, yeah, so like right now we're pitching a show that we created and we're sort of stomping around town telling everybody about it. But also when we were creating and developing this project, we were thinking about how it translates in world building. In our time developing the world, we were thinking about how we can make a VR experience, an AR experience, an interactive experience in any way, working with branching dialogue. These things are like, These things are really important if you want to keep creating and bridging the gap between these mediums, because as we know, in 20 or 30 years, somebody said this in Hollywood 2.0, there's not going to be a difference, especially when it comes to story, games, interactive medium. Having agency in your choices is the most intimate way to experience character and story. I don't want anything less at this point. So yeah, that's what we're into. That's what we do.
Well, that's really awesome. And clearly, like, AAA has set the bar super high for themselves. I really love watching our industry out-innovate itself with every year that comes by. But, you know, before we got on stage, you and I were talking about, you know, the difference between, you know, like this term AAA, where it comes from.
Okay, yeah.
And how you have a new term.
Before I say what I'm about to say, I'm a 100%er. Like, okay, I put 95 hours into Horizon Zero Dawn, and I love that game.
Yeah,
okay?
it's amazing.
That's just an example. Like, I go so hard. I will find everything in the anyway.
In case you were doubting if she was truly a gamer,
they're only doubting because I'm a girl.
You should never
whatever.
have to quantify
Nobody
it,
in this room is
but
doubting
in case
anything.
You were.
But the bigger point is, I have AAA fatigue. Like, that being said, I identify as that kind of gamer, but I have AAA fatigue, and I have felt like this for a while. Why am I playing games that I could have played in 2007 except with better graphics? Anyway.
It's rhetorical.
It's a rhetorical. That's rhetorical. This will change, and no, we don't have time to talk about the fact that, like, the culture of AAA is not one that allows for risk-taking because of making decisions based on fear of shareholders. We don't have to talk about that. You're probably having those conversations on your own already, right? No. Talk about it.
I don't think anyone in this room is probably going to admit that.
They should. We should, because if you want to have long game, and you, like, everybody here is like the keepers of the keys. You guys are actually the business decision makers. If you're not thinking about that, you are not thinking far enough down the line for your business. Okay, so two things I have to say about that. One is I'm really excited about the next phase of the games industry, because what's happening is we know that crunch sucks. It's an evil way to, it's evil, and it's not a sustainable thing to put upon your workforce, right? We know that. It's just not, like, human beings can't do this. So what is that causing? It's causing artists to leave those companies and find ways to be fulfilled elsewhere. That's exciting because they're starting their own studios. So the people who have worked in the AAA world that know how to lead these teams and work in iterative ways and, like, make a big property are starting their own independent studios that, I did not make up this term, but you can totally lie and tell people that I made up this term. They're starting III studios. It's somewhere above the indie studio, but, like, obviously smaller than the AAA. And that world, what comes out of those studios, that's what I'm trying to support. I want to live in those worlds. And as you go and you figure out where you want to put your money, I hope you're looking at those people who know how to do that, because someone just said it. Massively personal experiences? Okay, this is a weird analogy, but Spotify changed music. I don't necessarily even know if we're going to get to have a Beyoncé anymore or a Katy Perry anymore. I don't know if there gets to be a megastar anymore. It brought in the middle class, and it made an entire generation that's coming up now look for what speaks to them, what is highly personal to them, what artists and voices out there are telling stories that work for them. That's going to happen to gamers too. If you don't give them something that works for their hearts, you're not going to reach them. What was your question?
Well, we were talking about the transition from AAA to III, but I think you brought up a really good point that I want to touch on, because I think we're already seeing, you know, this, you know, raising up of these not quite independent, but it's almost, I don't want to use the term middleware, but, you know, it kind of feels like it's like this transition between experiences that aren't, you know, like your really small games, but they're not these giant, you know, $100 million budget blockbuster games either. But I mean, I think what we all as an industry recognize, the major problem with that is, while it's fantastic for creatives, it's really tough for consumers to really find those experiences, because discoverability is a bigger problem now more than ever, not just in.
So get to it, publishers.
Well, I mean,
like figure it out.
I think that's where we're at, right? We're trying.
Don't ask me. I don't know shit about that.
How does
not
Steam,
the right person.
Well, we're seeing curation lists on Steam.
Yeah.
It's like a good step. You know, we're seeing places like, you know, you look at the App Store, what Apple is doing, and how they have a team that does like new and noteworthy. That's a step.
Yeah.
But I mean, because publishing is so easier to reach now than it ever has been in the past, there are more creatives working now more than ever.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there have been other mediums that have tried things out that have ended up working for them, and it has affected generations in the way that they experience content, right? So the more you start finding, oh God, I hate this word. This is just an example of an idea, right? If you find an influencer, you might want to lift them up in like helping curate. Like we needed actual programmers and DJs on radios back when people didn't have a phone in their pocket to be the curators until people ruined that by paying them all off. So maybe use things that have worked in the past, but apply it to your medium and don't ruin it. I don't know. I'm just saying it's an example of an idea, and I have no idea what it's going to be, but time will tell. In the meantime, it takes so long to create a game. You better be making something that you know is personal and that people are going to click with. And you know, we can't just like keep using IP from Steven Spielberg movies. We have to start supporting new voices that are creating new ideas. And it's funny because I came here and I felt very insecure about talking to you guys today because you guys are like the business people. What do you need an artist to sit here and talk about? But I'm in the muck, having artist conversations and talking to people about how these things affect their hearts and their souls. And that is the stuff that you guys are trying to make anyway. So I guess in the end, it's okay that I'm here. But yeah, the bigger point is like we have to create new IP and we have to make sure. Who here has kids? Yeah, you guys have responsibilities. Are you okay with what you're supporting and putting into the world? You can't just follow that data forever. Like somebody had to find Spielberg and say, okay, kid, go ahead. And it wasn't based on data. It was because this kid was a genius. Like we have to actually find these artists who are oh, I hate the word disruptive too, an overused term.
It's okay, like, just throw it out there. It'll be fine.
Who have the balls to go hard and make something that they believe in because it stands for something and isn't based on data. Whoever's watching Twitch,
somebody's applauding somewhere.
I can read the Twitch chat of like all the people that are like, this girl has too many opinions. But sorry, I know you do as well, and I hope that you're sharing them and talking about these things because your data is king, as we know, so play the games that you love, and hopefully you'll be supporting independent games where the new voices are building the skills to be able to make bigger things in the future.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I could listen to you talk all day, but we do have a limited amount of time.
Okay.
And before we run out of time, I want to be sure that we talk about your site. So,
oh, sure.
As most of us know in the industry, one of the more popular forum sites, NeoGAF, went down not that long ago, and in response to that, we saw some other sites rise up, and one of those sites was your site.
Yeah.
The forum.games.
Yeah, the forum.games. So when NeoGAF went down, it was like fourth quarter of the year. Battlefront II was just about to come out, and I was like, where will I go to read people's opinions? And I was totally freaked out. So I called my ex-boyfriend, who was the founder of deviantart.com, and I was like, how fast can we put up a new forum? Like now. So we like did it that day, and then NeoGAF went back up, and I was like, they don't need us. But you know what would be really great is if we locked this down, made it private and invite and approval only, and made it just for the games industry so people could talk to each other anonymously if they wanted to, ask each other questions, have things like this, but make it Q&As with creators. You know, the people that I surround myself with are such culture creators, such changes in really trying to forge change in this industry and help it grow, which is all I care about as a fan. And I want them to be talking to each other. The games industry is so siloed. You guys know, like, it's good to have things like this, but you know, we live in secrets, and it's really important that we talk, as specifically creators, about game theory and use each other as references and talk to each other as artists. And people aren't really doing that yet. So I wanted to create something that might be a safe space that people could do that in. It is theforum.games. You can go, you can like click the apply thing. It's not like there's like a big admin group. It's literally me. I'm gonna get on a plane in 2 hours and I'm gonna like hit approve if you say that you came to GamesBeat. So yeah, that's the start of something that I don't know what it's going to be. I think it will tell us what it should be. But that's just one example of what we can do in the future to start exacting change. Again, these things take a really long time to make, and in that process, I hope we're having really deep discussions about what we're actually putting into the world. This is the future. The games industry will be. People are going to be like, Hollywood, what? Oh, remember when? The games industry is going to take over. You are here at the forefront of it.
We're already out earning them, so.
Yeah. You know what's so funny is, sorry, I'm deciding whether I should tell you this.
Then you should probably tell us, right? Yeah.
When I was doing press for Battlefront, I was doing a lot of press that I've done before for like big magazine conglomerates, and these people have to meet with you and they like talk to you like you're a little actress, and then they're like, so you're in a game, that's cool, and they don't understand that I had to sit there and be like, this is the budget of the game that I'm a part of. This is its projected profit. And then suddenly, because the metric of money is sexy to them, so suddenly they're like, oh, I am finally listening, and I'm just like, lean in, or you're just gonna die off, man. Like I say these words, you're gonna die off. Do you really? You're 22, you just got you're an English major just 2 seconds ago, and you have to talk to actresses about their kale diets. Listen to what I'm saying, like lean in. It's an entire world that you're ignoring, and it is the future. So, I'm preaching to the choir. You guys don't actually.
And as much as I would love to do a whole nother panel about that, we sadly ran out of time.
That's so funny. I'll be here for a little bit.
So, Janina, thank you so much for joining me on stage. But now we are going to leave, and while we do that, I'm going to doubly, so I don't have to walk off and then walk back up. Janina, no, you're the best.